Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in once again for Radical Practice. My next guest is DHANURDHARA SWAMI. DHANURDHARA SWAMI was initiated into the Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in 1974. In 1982, he accepted the Sannyasa Ashrama, or renounced order of life. DHANURDHARA SWAMI is the author of 3 books: Waves of Devotion, a comprehensive study of the nectar of devotion; Greetings from Vrindavan, a selected collection of his thoughts and realizations from 2000 to 2004; and Japa Meditations, Contemplations on Entering the Holy Name, a collection of selected personal realizations on Japa meditation by Maharaja and others. He is currently working on several writing projects, including a contemporary book on bhakti and a book on kirtan. DHANURDHARA SWAMI spends half of the year in India, where he focuses on bhajan, studying, writing, and taking people on pilgrimage to holy places. The other half of the year, he is in the West, where he spends his time traveling and speaking about bhakti yoga. DHANURDHARA SWAMI is going to be speaking today about surrender, the concept of surrender in the Bhagavad Gita. His talk is titled Surrender Unto Me, the theme of the Gita and the essence of yoga. So with that, please welcome DHANURDHARA SWAMI.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Taksur Umlatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanshakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasade Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Very happy to meet the audience. I'm not exactly sure who you are or what you understand. And I'm meditating deeply how I can connect with you on the Gita and say something relevant. And I'm going to start in a very, very unusual way. I'm actually going to talk about something that's very, very deep and very, very philosophical. The theme of the Gita, which is to surrender to the Supreme. And I'm going to discuss that as the theme of the Gita according to classical principles of hermeneutics of the Purva Mimamsa. And I hope you're still there after I said that. Of course, hermeneutics means interpretation of a particular text. But I want to start like at the exact opposite. And it'll be a point that's relevant. Let's see how well it works. Has anybody who is, I'm 65, I'm not sure we have the same cultural background, but has anybody who's watching this ever seen a show called The Life and Loves of Dobie Gillis? And there was a figure on that show, and I hope I'll show you how this is related. There's a figure on that show called Maynard G. Krebs. And Maynard G. Krebs, I guess the story was, Dobie Gillis was just an ordinary guy in the early 50s, and leave it to Beaver, Father knows. But he's gotten a little trouble, but kind of the all-American type. But he had one friend who is a beatnik named Maynard G. Krebs, and they, of course, were the predecessors to the hippies. And their thing is they didn't like to work. They just, that was, when I grew up, the beatniks, they didn't like to work. So in the show, we thought it was really funny that every time you know, the father or something said, we have some work in the yard, or there's something to do, he would shriek and go, work, you know, work, like it was such a painful concept. And the reason why I'm kind of mentioning this is because the theme is surrender, and I kind of feel it's like surrender, you know. I'm trying to present the beautiful thing, the theme of the Gita, and I almost feel in the modern culture, the word has taken on such a negative connotation that maybe I can't even discuss it. And what do you think of when you think of surrender? Well, the word means, I think rendre means to return, and su means under, to give yourself under someone. You know, when I think of surrender, I think of a white flag. I think of Iwo Jima, is that it? You know, where the Japanese have the people in their back and their hands are. So, you know, words, you know, it tend to become pregnant with the history of their usage. But the concept of surrender in a functional society, and I'm saying this is necessary dysfunctional, but there is some degree of that. In a society of functional families and authorities that properly represent tradition, then surrender or giving yourself meant to get love from above, get protection from above, get maintenance and nourishment. It's just like a child with the mother, you know. He is giving himself to the mother. And that sense of giving yourself is actually love. In classical aesthetics, different relationships have different flavors of love. And the flavor of love of a subordinate to a superior would be called prabhuta gyan. You know, you are my protector. You are my shelter. You know, I am yours. Any type of relationship, if there's not a certain surrender or stepping out of the context that my life should simply be ruled by my desires and nothing else, then that's a life of a sadness. There's a principle of surrender that's very much connected to harmony. Harmony means beauty, not just in music, art. And what does it mean? It means that parts combine and take direction of a truth greater than their own, direction. Partnership. There's something greater than each person's individual desires. That's what's good for the partnership, or a family, what's good for the family or a community. The difference between a community and a crowd is that people are surrendered to an ideal beyond their individual ego that sees the world according to their own desires. Erich Fromm, in The Art of Loving, he described the term narcissistic, where a person sees the world according to his desires and therefore seeks power to control the world, to conform it to their desires. And the first principle of stepping out of ego is surrender. That there's something higher, there's a truth that dictates my life that's higher than my own desires. My own desires may be the truth, but they're not true because I want them. They're true because they conform to something higher. So this is a basic principle of the heart, the basic principle of love. And that basic principle is the principle of the universe. Everyone here is seeking pleasure, and pleasure is love, if that's the principle that's existing here, why shouldn't that be the principle that's existing in the ultimate reality? And love means surrender, even to God. And what's the term for God in Sanskrit? It's Ishvara. It's a generic term. And what does Ishvara mean? Ish means the center, and Vara means the circumference. There's a center in which everything else is connected. That creates harmony. If you have a pool of water, if there's a center, it makes beautiful concentric circles. If there's different centers, there's clashing. So the theistic conception as presented in the Gita is there is a supreme absolute truth which we have a relationship with. The relationship of the part to the whole is service. Just think if you had a very old and loving grandmother that was sick and in the last days, and you were assigned to care for them, then what would you have to do? You'd have to enter into their world and their needs, and you would experience love in the heart. Even the first principle of mantra meditation is that one should think of others before oneself. So this is the theme of the Gita. And also, just going back to the Yoga Sutra, because many people have a familiarity of spirituality entering through that text. We know recommended meditation is to meditation on the divine. And it's almost essential to step out of the ego, to accept a principle and a direction higher than yourself. So now getting back to my talk, hoping now that surrender doesn't interject with you kind of a negative connotation, but you see it as the basic principle of entering devotion or love. When they say Ishvara Pranidava, Pranida means to submit, but the translation of it that's always given is to devote. Because that's what love means, that you're guided and you serve the desires of another whom you have an affectionate relationship with. And that's the principle of the universal principle. Now, what I'd like to do in today's session is I'd like to show you what the theme of the Gita is through these 6 principles of interpretation. 6 principles that determine what is the message or theme in a work. That one concept that connects everything else, and therefore is the message that's being communicated in different ways. So I'm going to present that through these principles of how to ascertain it, hermeneutics, and then there's a classical hermeneutics. So I have some notes here, and I'm going to go and to actually understand what the theme of a book is, you have to understand its opening and closing statements. You have to see what is repeated the most times. You have to see, are there any concepts in which there are extraordinary claims made about them? Are there descriptions of results of doing things that have a favorable result? Are there glorifications of particular concepts? And are there logical arguments that establish particular concepts? So I have these notes, and I think I explained before that, maybe I didn't explain this time, that I don't know the audience there, and I'm trying to figure out who you are and what you know about the subject. And I saw the list of so many good speakers, so I wanted to speak on something maybe a little unique and maybe give this audience a little bit flavor of the traditional scholarship of engaging with the text in kind of an accessible way.